Welcome to the IIoT and Remote O&M in the pharmaceutical industry. We've been running these IIoT webinars every couple weeks, and there's about 14 of them that have been done, and we'll be continuing to do them over the next foreseeable time. Maybe it'll be like some of our other services. I notice we're on issue 462 of our Scrubber Knowledge System newsletter, which we started in 1974 as a monthly. So anyway, the table of contents here of the session today is we are going to go through the markets and give you a forecast of how big we think the market is going to be. And then a lot of it depends on a lot of the components, and so we're going to show you some of those forecasts as well. And I think a large part of the contribution that we hope to make is in wisdom, which is to enhance IIoT in a number of different ways. And we think that that is underestimated, and a lot of work needs to be done there. And a number of the people who have made presentations here are indicating, are demonstrating that they have the wisdom to go along with all the digital material. We have a major program to determine the top 550 companies that will be buying 60% of all the IIoT products in the industrial sector, and we're going to be looking at the top 25 pharma companies. We're going to do a deeper dive on Novartis, and then we are going to quickly go through a number of suppliers, but stop at the appropriate slides of the people on the line here. And this is all being recorded, and it will be up on YouTube. And so you can talk accordingly as to, based on the type of coverage that we probably will be getting. Some of our YouTube presentations up there have resulted in thousands of hits. So that being said, here are the people on the call today, and Katan, I think that we'll be looking for you to make some comments, and Gerhard at Lua. I'm not sure Antonio of Novartis is going to be able to make it or not. And then we have 3 people from OSI Soft, and so there will be some appropriate areas where they can make comments. And I know Stefan Eckhart of Schuff is going to be on the call today, and then Matthew of Sensitech. And again, Scott, feel free to make comments. Scott has been a presenter in several of our power plant webinars, and particularly our BHE supplier program, which we believe is a template for the other 549 companies that are the large purchasers. And then if Tom is on from Yokogawa, we'll appreciate his comments as well. Any questions at this point in time? I'm just going to move this out of the way here. The program that we are undertaking is to analyze the IIoT and remote O&M markets in a number of different industries. And one way we laid this out is the on-site versus the remote O&M. And the concept is a little difficult to perceive because some of these are not additional revenues, they're just revenues that are affected where the decisions are being made by someone other than would have made them prior to the IIoT era. So some of it's new revenues, smart valves, all the software and so forth, and others is just revenue that would have occurred anyway, but the decision makers are different. And as you can see, the orange is the more than 50 billion, and the on-site is bigger than obviously, than the remote O&M, but the remote O&M is growing faster. And oil and gas is really the area where, obviously with subsea and all these other things, where it's well advanced already. The market now is only about $9 billion, but growing at 13% per year, which is not only our forecast, but is the forecast of Accenture and some of these other companies who are working hard to make those kind of determinations. Obviously the capital investment, which is being made as part of the picture, and then also the O&M, which is another big part of it. But here is something that encapsulates the capital expenditures for a number of the different industries that will be following here, are already following, and you can see that the power industry with $285 billion is considerably more than, for instance, the drugs that we'll be looking for today, which is only about 45 billion. But the net R&D, if you look for drugs and so forth, is significant as well. So that's an additional area where there is the IIoT and remote O&M proceeding. I'm not going to go through these in detail, but all the potential IIoT is related to all the components, and so we have a number of different services that follow the technology as well as the markets. For instance, cross-flow membranes is reverse osmosis and microfiltration, ultrafiltration, and then the cartridges, which is the dead end filtration, is a $3 billion market next year, or $2.3 billion market next year. The pump market is $702 million next year. The on-off valves, $1.1 billion. The control valves we are forecasting at $423 million. This is for the pharmaceutical industry. And for instance, in control valves, the total control valve is in the multi-billions. So pharma is just a relatively small part of the control valve market. Excuse me. As I said, we are trying to provide knowledge systems and expanding the scope, but we have been in the air pollution area since 1974, and we are routinely gathering things like proposed rules for HAPs in the pharmaceutical industry and how you solve the emission from a tray dryer, et cetera. And we've been gathering, thousands and thousands of articles and things all the time since in the last 30 or 40 years. And the same thing for fabric filtration and how you remove hazardous dust in the pharmaceutical industry, and some of the latest improvements that have been made. So we have services on ultra-pure water, and again, breaking out the water for injection versus other pure water requirements. And we do have webinars on new sensors, and of course, the success of IIoT and remote O&M in the future is highly dependent on the improvements in the sensors as well. Let's move on to the top 25 pharma purchasers. You do have the generic as well as the branded, and I won't go into some of that, but obviously a lot of the generics is plants are being built in India and China, but sales are over $1 billion, and here are the top 10 pharmaceutical companies. What I might caution you is the numbers changed by the evaluations that are being made by the analysts. And for instance, in this analysis, only 67% of Novartis sales are determined to be in the pharmaceutical segment. So that's certainly a variable that you have to kind of look at. And then, of course, some of these companies are in multiple areas where there is an IIoT opportunity. So somebody like Novartis, it's bigger than just the pharmaceutical. Sensitech is the largest IIoT purchasing company, and they're huge in oil and gas. They're one of the largest in chemical. So they're in multiple areas. In gas transmission, they're putting in a $30 billion coal gas pipeline right now in China. So, but there is a need to look at the total activities of these companies and then segment it out by those that are relevant. The IIoT purchases in 2020 would be are estimated here with Pfizer over 300 million, and Novartis that we'll be talking about a little bit later at 200 million. And again, this is kind of a convoluted analysis that includes revenues that are decided elsewhere, as well as new revenues that are just relative to the IIoT program. And we rounded out the top 25 companies here. And now let's go down to Novartis for a deeper dive there. They a little bit on their history we don't need to go into. They have major production sites around the world. Since we're obviously everything to do with IIoT has to is involved with water or air or gases or flowing solids. And so one way to start on all these analyses is how big is the activity of each of these companies in all these different areas. So here's a good summary of their recent water use for the corporation. And you can see it's slightly down, but they're a major user in millions of meters cubed per year. And they've done a good job of reducing their inorganic as well as their VOCs. But they still have some NOx problems, as do all the pharmaceutical companies. There's a phenomenon going on where mobile communications is preferred, and as a result of it, LinkedIn has become very popular as a way to communicate. I'm personally just on the IIoT communicating with about 5,000 people, and I'm amazed at how many presidents of companies are communicating, as well as down to the automation engineers and valve people and so forth. There's a tremendous amount of information out there that's generated by air and water permits, all sorts of different data that's available, and but this is what we call is the foundation of the wisdom, is to pull all this information together from the easily available information, although time consuming. But some of our services do, for instance, provide the air toxic emissions of all the plants in the United States. So this is an example of how, of how much toluene goes out of one of the Novartis plants, as an example. And we track the clean room projects. So pharmaceutical, all the new pharmaceutical construction, and here's one that was put in, and then here's another plant that's got is under construction right now, and has certain clean room requirements. Antonio Bendia of Novartis has a blog on automation, and he's made, I think, some very good comments. At least they're ones we hardly agree with. That he likens the IIoT needs to that of success in race car driving. And basically, in each case, you've got to ask who's the user and what is his specific needs, and what are the capabilities needed to develop and drive the program. And one of the things he's emphasizing is the operations and process experience that will be needed. And again, we think that there is a big potential to support that experience, which is intra-company, with those from the suppliers and from designated niche experts. That is a whole group of people that needs to be cultivated. But it's the interconnection of all the niche expertise around the world, and not just intra-company, which is needed. So the I think Antonio would be heartily in agreement with all that. They have a partnership with OSI, and we have a few OSI slides here. Would somebody from OSI want to comment a little bit on that relationship? I might go down to one of the other slides here, which is the OSI Soft PI system. Maybe that would be more appropriate. Would someone from OSI Soft want to comment on that particular system? If not, we will be under OSI coming up with some other data, and there'll be a chance to say a few words at that point in time. So Novartis has been heavily involved in the move to lights out manufacturing, and so there's a lot of great information that they're putting out there. Let's move on now to the suppliers. The Alchemy Innovation, Lisa is, I think, of a similar mind, and she has been pursuing this wisdom through the suite of available technologies and tools that support optimal data analytics at several different levels. And Scott, I might just ask you a question at the time. You're involved in this data analytics, and you likewise are trying to make sure that you try to match all the data analytic tools that are available. Is that correct?
Yeah, Bob. I guess one comment I would make is there's a lot of a very wide range of analytic tools that are available, and I think one of the challenges that that folks have is exactly what you just said, trying to match what's the right tool to the right purpose. And just as an example, there's a lot of discussion on machine learning and artificial intelligence, and there's a definite need for tools that use what I would refer to as unsupervised learning. And this is where you're really relying on the capabilities of the tool to figure out what the relationships are with the data. And there's a clear need for that, especially in a lot of applications where there's a very broad array of data, but very shallow. In a lot of other instances, the data sets are narrower and deeper. And there, I think there's a different need for machine learning and what I would call supervised machine learning. And this is where what you're trying to focus on, for the most part, is combine the knowledge of subject matter experts, if you would, that we know a lot about what those assets are doing and how they fail, and using tools to help us better identify performance issues or reliability issues or diagnostic issues, but it's really trying to leverage or amplify or really take advantage of that subject matter expertise in conjunction with the tools. And I see that's where the more immediate opportunities are.
And is there a sequencing requirement there? In other words, I visualize in a lot of these areas that, say you've got a remote monitoring center and a problem arises, and it probably can be worked out, with level 1 expertise. But if it isn't, it moves up the line, and there's probably somebody in the world that can answer the question better than anybody else if it moves into some more complex or difficult challenge. So, but that would require a sequencing in the whole program that I suppose can be built in digitally. Is that what you're thinking on that?
I mean, I think the goal is to, the latest goal is to try to really integrate things like these diagnostics into the analytics. So, the analytics can be used to identify the patterns that are going on, and then you can use analytics to also then match those patterns with known faults or known causes or known symptoms, and that can help do a lot of the diagnostics automatically. Certainly there's going to be some escalation or sequencing, but I think the goal is for these remote monitoring centers is to capture and automate as best you can as much of the learning that the subject matter experts have, so that a lot of these first, you call it level 1, can either be handled directly with the customer or a true level 1. And that's the only way you can leverage. If every problem is a level 4 problem and you got one guy in your monitoring center that can handle the level 4 problems, you can see it bottlenecks pretty quickly.
That's a very good point. I'd like to ask you another question there too, which is you and I have been involved, in the power industry forever. And I'm trying to understand, the IIoT implications in these other industries, and I assume you're involved in them as well. You look at what I see here is Lisa's analysis of how she's putting all this data analytics and things together using the Seek and the Beckman-Coulter, which we're talking about a little bit later here anyway. But these are on very small compared to a power plant that's got 4 million CFM. You're talking liters and things here, and a precision that maybe you don't need in the power industry. How do you relate what's going on in say pharma or some of these other industries as to power and to who's leading and who needs to learn from whom and so forth?
Yeah, I mean, clearly, my background is more based on the power side, and I'm just getting exposed to some of these other industries. But I got to tell you, I've been to several other conferences, and Pharmaceuticals was one that there were some folks at. They're looking at these applications as I see them twofold. One is in the manufacturing, the process side of it. How can they use the analytic tools to either improve the performance or the reliability of the manufacturing process? And then secondly is how can they use the tools to help them in literally the process end of it, the chemical side, and I see those as again, I see it all kind of falling out into two types of applications. One is where if you know a lot about what's going on, it's a different tool set. It's analytics, but it's marrying up the subject matter expertise. And then there's a great application for things like Seek, as an example, which are more pure machine learning, where you don't know what the relationships you don't know. So I
Yeah.
kind of break it into, you've got known unknowns and unknown unknowns. And pure machine learning is best when you have an unknown unknown.
And another question for you here is bridging this knowledge or communicating this knowledge from industry to industry. Now, just looking at the fact that you have the O2 sensors here, you're an expert on tunable diode lasers for O2 measurement in combustion applications. So, how much information transfer would be beneficial between the challenges of measuring O2 in a number of these different industries?
Well, yeah, I think the key thing here is not so much the transfer of technologies from one industry to the next necessarily. I just see the real game changer here is in the cost of these sensors, and now you can afford to put sensors on stuff that you couldn't afford to put it on before, and so there's a lot of activity now, especially in the power area, which I'm more closely related to, is on the sensor stuff. What kind of information can we get today that either we couldn't get before, or economically couldn't get before, or connectivity-wise we couldn't get before, and how can that help us eke out that last few percent of value with respect to the analytics?
Some very good points. Thanks, Scott. The Alpha Laval is heavily involved in the processes, and they're involved in the automation and sensing as well, and certainly in the pneumatic valve area is an area where more sensing and measurement definitely needs to be done. AVK is a major supplier of valves to this industry, and they're involved in the smart valves as well. Burkert, has software and components where they're putting together complete packages with controlling all the pneumatic valves, and they do have a cloud-based MySite solution, which I won't get into, but basically it's interesting to see these companies that start as a valve supplier and they're moving in to the automation, and so you've got a crossover point there between who is working for whom and who's collaborating with whom, and the pneumatic process interface is the heart of what they're doing in this area. And Copadat out of the UK has the open automation cloud platforms. We were just talking about Lisa's presentation for that bioreactor, but Danaher is in a very good position, and we've been talking about them in a number of our webinars, because they have ChemTreat, who furnishes the treatment chemicals, and they have Paul, who makes the filters. And so they have all these, and Hock and Beckman to make the measurements. So it all goes Beckman Coulter. So it all goes together. But the single-use systems is an interesting area for the automation and remote control, and so we're basically raising that as a question as to how much you can even do that with the single-use systems in the pharma industry. And of course, they have the TOC analyzers, and some of the other ChemTreat, which is their treatment chemicals group, has a monitoring and control software as well. So Anderson Hauser, where somebody we've been writing considerably about, and they're moving from the software to technology from sensors to software for all sorts of at least integration with other people's software. Emerson has just acquired Tyco Valves, which is a lot of the on-off valves, but also Burkett, Bailey, Marston, and so forth in tank protection and other valves in the pharmaceutical industry. And then that goes along with their wireless transmitters, and then the Fisher Valve Group, which provides the control valves. And here's an anti-cancer compound plant in Italy. And Evoqua is, used to be the old U.S. filter, and is involved in all of this with the technology from the water side of things. And so they have a big opportunity as well here. And then for valve manufacturers, ITT is also big in pumps and in valves, and has a program on the valve maintenance as well. And they do make the diaphragm valves for pharmaceutical applications. And now we're going to move on to the Lua valves. And so I'd like Gerhard, if you would please give us, first of all, would you just give us a little bit of your background, who you are, and then just take us through these slides? Yeah, I know Gerhard was planning to be on this morning. Is anybody else from Lua on? If not, I'll just move through these, but I'm hearing something. Yeah, Gerhard, are you on with us now? There may be a communication problem there. Yeah, what I might do is come back to these when we've got Gerhard communicating with us there. Why don't we do that? So I'm just going to go down through these, and then we'll come back to them. But one of these slides we did put together, and because we did think that it's appropriate that in all these things you're looking at the total cost of ownership. And I think a lot of products you're going to be investing more, but the maintenance and production downtime are going to be less. And so you do have the lowest total cost of ownership. So Gerhard, you'll let us know when you're communicating with us there. Mitsubishi is involved in this in a number of ways, and of course with everything else they're involved in on the equipment side. They are in a very good position to take advantage of all this. In the power side, they have a remote monitoring center in the Philippines, and because people there speak English, that's where they could get a lot of English-speaking engineers in the Philippines. They set up a remote monitoring center there to measure performance for the rotating parts of the gas turbines and power plants throughout Asia. OSI Soft is very involved in the pharma industry, and this is their 2017 users conference. And the information we extracted from that Novartis presentation was actually from their 2014 conference. Again, does anybody from OSI Soft want to make any comments about your activities or your user conferences? Okay, if not, we'll move on again. Rockwell is in a good position in this industry with all their automation, again, with all their sensors and things as well. So their Factory Talk software is used in the pharmaceutical industry, and in this particular case, they talked about saving a lot of money for a sterile injectables manufacturer. Now we're on to the Crane Pharma information, and Ketan Pandit, do you want to give us a little bit of your background and then take us through all this?
Yep, sure. Thanks, Bob. Can you hear me well?
We sure can, right?
Great. Good morning, everyone. My name is Ketan Pandit. I'm the Regional Business Manager for Saunders, responsible for the Americas. I joined Crane Group 3 years ago, and since 2 years I am working with Saunders in their HC4 product segment, which is where we manufacture diaphragm valves for the pharmaceutical applications. So in context of this presentation, we are just explaining or showcasing the sensors suite of products that we have, which is really iView and mView. Because these are the new products that we have launched, which mount on top of a diaphragm valve and enhance the diagnostics or provide intelligent diagnostics from the diaphragm valve through the control panel. So as you can see on the screen right now, our automation portfolio, we just have two sensors. One is iView and the other one's mView. iView was launched around 4 years ago, and it is like the most enhanced premium sensor for a diaphragm valve technology. It's very easy to mount on any Saunders actuators, and it comes in 3 variants. It comes either in point-to-point, DeviceNet, or RZ versions, and very easy to install and field as well. It has a wide range of features, which we'll talk in the upcoming slides, that makes it a really powerful tool for a diaphragm valve application. Whereas if you look at mView, it is a very short and sweet product, which we launched only 3 months ago, and it's commercially available now. But again, the technology for these two products is continuous sensing technology, which makes the product very reliable, accurate, and because of diagnostic capabilities, the sensors add intelligence to the valve. And as a result, all these features, they deliver savings to the customer. And these are just electronic components with no mechanical moving parts like mechanical sensors or proximity sensors. That's why these are zero maintenance and have contactless operation, which makes it very easy to use. So basically, when we started developing this automation portfolio, like we knew, so we are in the era of smart technology where customers wants to connect every piece of instrument to the internet, or they want to get data from every piece of instrument. So if you look at diaphragm valve traditionally, or a conventional diaphragm valve, it's a mechanical component where we don't get any kind of diagnostics. So with sensors, we try to get those diagnostics from the actuator, and that's the whole purpose of developing this suite. So Saunders iView, it is really focused on the end user market, just because it has a lot of key features, and it has 18 different types of features and 15 different alarms. So this enables the customers to extract all the diagnostics which were not available before. If you go to the next one, which is mView, that is focused on the OEM market. So not all customers need the whole suite of diagnostics. Some customers only need very few features like self-calibration and output inversion. So that's what we have given in mView. So mView is a short and sweet version of iView, which gives limited diagnostics, but again, reliable and accurate functioning. Whereas iView gives full stream of products and enables customers or end users to extract diagnostics and use it for preventive maintenance schedules. So if we go to the next slide, yeah, the next one, please. Yes, so here we talk about the value proposition, and this is similar to one of the Leva slides that Bob touched on earlier. So we are developing all these products, but the main aim here is to reduce the total cost of ownership. Now, if you guys have seen, just calibrating a sensor on a diaphragm valve can take quite a bit of a time. So if we click on the next one, the main difference between traditional calibration and calibration of the Sonder sensors is the calibration process itself. So traditionally in a mechanical switch, sorry, we have to open the enclosure, press the probe, open the valve, again press the probe, and then calibrate the whole thing. So if you do a time study on it, you will find that on a traditional switch, you need 2 technicians, with each person spending around 30 minutes to calibrate a switch, which seems a lot when you have thousands of switches in the field. So with our sensors, however, you can do the same thing in exactly 3 minutes with just 1 person doing that. The calibration process is extremely simple. So if you go to the next one, you will see in pre-commissioning, we have 4 types of calibrations, or we calibrate a switch 4 times. We calibrate it during during passivation, startup, pre-calibration, and then actual running. So if you start multiplying, you will see every time you calibrate a sensor, there's a saving of $45 per calibration. Now that you multiply by thousands of sensors you have in the field, and quickly you are talking about big numbers here. So this is in pre-commissioning stage. If you look at post-commissioning, again, every time a diaphragm is replaced, the sensor has to be calibrated. Again, with a traditional switch, it will take up to 60 minutes, but with the view sensors, it just takes 3 minutes. So if we go to the next one, what we have done is based on one of our largest installed base, no, Bob, just one slide before on the takeaway. Yeah, so based on our largest installed base for these sensors, where we have 2,800 sensors installed, we worked with the customer to understand and find out the savings, and we realized that the sensors deliver 1.3 million savings in 5 years for a facility with 2,800 sensors. And that's a big number when you start looking at all the facilities and all the diaphragm valves and the savings it can just have in the maintenance time. So that's how the iView and MView sensors will help reduce the total cost of ownership. So if I go to the next slide, please. Thank you. So if we quickly touch on the iView, what's different about the product compared to other sensors in the market? Or how is this even helping pharma customers? The reason is data. What we are talking right now is all about data, making instruments smart. So iView, when mounted on top of an actuator, makes the actuator intelligent, because now we are able to extract all sorts of data from that actuator. Earlier, customers will not know how many times they have used that valve or how many cycles have they used on that actuator. But with iView, as you can see, there's a screen on top that is the cycle counter. So it counts every time the valve is open and closed. Now this customers or the end users in pharma can use to change or modify their maintenance cycles and change the diaphragm only when it's required to be changed. Whereas today, the customers just follow a set maintenance schedule and throw away the diaphragm even if it is good. So having sensors like this on diaphragm valves gives the power to the customers or end users to change their preventive maintenance schedules and optimize their maintenance cycles to get the most out of the diaphragm which is in there. And it's not only the cycle counter. As you can see, all these on the features on the screen, they are available in iView. So you can set day alarm, date alarm, cycle tolerance. You can have the solenoid options. You can even set a password so that the operators cannot tamper with the product itself. And you have partial counter alarm and total counter alarm. So all these features give power to the customer to use the diaphragm valve like never before. So if we go to the next slide, I can quickly summarize. So over the board between MView and iView, we can get enhanced diagnostics, as you just saw, which is really powerful tool in today's era of smart instruments. Then these products have very easy self-calibration process on just under 3 minutes compared to 30 or 60 minutes with a traditional switch. then you can also calibrate these remotely over a control network or an industrial network. These sensors are very reliable and accurate. So this is the best-in-class accuracy with iView that you can get with an accuracy of 0.2 millimeters. And they have reliable continuous electromagnetic sensing technology, which makes it a very robust product. And they are contactless. As you can see in the images, there are no buttons on the periphery. It's a magnetic technology. So you get a magnetic chain, a magnetic key to operate it from the outside. And if not, you can also get all the controls in your control panel to control it remotely. And again, it comes with point-to-point RZ or DeviceNet versions, just giving maximum flexibility to the customers. So basically, our sensors offer a wide range of diagnostics, enabling the customers to use diaphragm valves like never before.
Well, thank you, Ketan, and appreciate getting updated on some new technology and developments that you have that look very impressive here. So thank you.
Thank you.
Samson, we talked about in length last 2 weeks ago. Their valves and the ENH sensors are used by BASF in their programs in IIoT and condition monitoring and preventive maintenance and so forth. But Samson's also, of course, involved in pharmaceutical valves as well. I don't believe we've got anybody from Seek, so we're going to pass on their discussion there too. But they are, Scott was mentioning, taking advantage of all the machine learning. We're going to move on to Schuff valves, and Stefan Eckhart, I believe you're the one that going to tell us about some of the Schuff valve activities. Is that correct? Yeah, Stefan, are you on with us there?
He appears to be self-muted, so he may have to unmute himself.
Oh, he may have muted himself.
Can you guys hear me?
Oh, yeah, we can hear you now, sure.
Can you hear me now? Apologize.
No problem.
Yes.
So,
my name is Stefan Eckhart. If you want me to start the same way as you had the previous presenter.
Yeah, please just give us a little bit of your background, if you would, Stefan. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yes, Stefan Eckhart with Schuff USA. I'm the CEO of the North American sales organization of Schuff. Schuff is a custom-made valve manufacturer that's been making valves for over 100 years, headquartered in Germany. The name Schuff is Schwärzel and Fang, two families that owned it. I joined Schuff 9 years ago. Prior to this, I worked for Bayer Corporation in the polymers division, making spandex elastic fiber. Bob contacted me and a colleague of mine, David O'Dwyer, who's not able to participate today. He's in Ireland a few hours ahead of us, to see if we would be willing to present a little bit about our products. And what Schuff has done is about 4 or 5 years ago, the company Pfizer contacted us, said that they had a little bit of a problem. PAT technology, they wanted to integrate an IR probe, a metal IR probe, into their reactor. But they ran out of room on the reactor. They didn't have another nozzle close enough to the bottom of the reactor to enter that sensor into the tank. So they asked, could we possibly integrate the metal IR probe into our bottom outlet valve? So on this first slide that Bob has up here, you see our standard disc bottom outlet valve, a cross-section of it, and the single shaft version with the metal IR probe, the blue piece on the bottom, going all the way through the shaft of the spindle and all the way through the disc in the top, making direct contact to the process medium. I'm not a specialist on IR probes and probes, but basically what it gives the customer direct feedback of reactions taking place in a reactor, in a process reactor, where they're usually making API manufacturing, or in their pilot plant where they're running trials. So connected to that sensor is then a computer that feeds back all the data from the reaction taking place in that reactor, where people can right away react, or as you guys have been talking about, can be remotely monitored, and people on another part of the world can look at it and can provide input and feedback to the people locally. If you click one slide further, Bob, please. Here on the right-hand side now is the dual probe version, where you have the metal IR probe as well as additional temperature probe that's going into the top of the valve through the disc, but that temperature probe does not make any direct contact. That sits in the tower. Okay, the next slide, please. Again, here's just a couple of pictures of what this dual probe sensors look like. You can see the drawing shows you the right-hand side, the probe that the temperature probe that is sitting in the tower, not making direct contact. On the left-hand side, the R probe making direct contact into the process medium. We've done this now also with some other technologies. If you switch to the next slide, please, Bob. We've done it with a liquid sonic sensor from Sensitech, and I believe we also have a person from Sensitech here on the call as well that may be able to speak a little bit more about the details on the Sensitech liquid sonic probe. But here the probe is installed on the top of the disc. Connection cables run through the spindle in the inside through a cable then attached to a computer and give him feedback about the process. So it is not new technology, it's just us providing the customers like Pfizer, like BMS, like Merck, with the capability to install these type of sensors through the bottom of these disc bottom outlet valves that are used to normally drain the reactors after they're completed with their reactions. So this is about it, what I have to say. I don't know if anybody has questions, or if you have any questions, please see if you can get my contact information from Bob and send me via email any questions that you may have.
I have one question there. The obviously for a retrofit situation where you don't want to jeopardize the integrity of a glass line reactor, there obviously would be big applications for it. And of course, retrofit will be a lot of the IIoT type sensor applications. So much of it's going to be on existing equipment. But it would seem that even for new equipment, it would make sense to incorporate these sensors in the valves. Is that your opinion as well?
Of course, as a salesman as I am for the valves, I would try to push a customer that way, but it's easier on new equipment to put an additional nozzle into the tank. The only thing with these additional nozzles is sometimes it's also limited to the length of the probe. The probe has to be a certain length, and the fiber optic cable that is connected to it can only be bent at a certain radius. So there's certain limitations. Yes, the biggest advantage is probably on existing reactors. On new reactors, customers have the chance to integrate the probe somewhere different. But that's where we see most of our businesses in retrofits, as you said, of existing equipment. Yeah,
certainly most of the market is going to be retrofitting the existing equipment. Yeah. Well, that's very interesting and very innovative. So I'd like to thank you, Stefan.
No problem.
And we do have Matthew Caslow of Sensitech on with us here. And we have a couple of his slides. Matthew, the floor is yours if you'd like to give us a little of your background and talk about the Sensitech technology.
Yeah, certainly. Thanks, Bob. Can you hear me okay?
Sure can.
Okay, good. Just wanted to check since we're having a little audio issues there. Yeah, good morning, everyone. My name is Matthew Caslow with Sensitech. I've been with the company for a little over a year now. I'm the regional sales manager for North America. Sensitech is actually a German company established in the 1990s, and it's been providing concentration measurements, across various industries over the years, including everything from chemical, food to, of course, pharmaceutical industries. So our technology is actually based on sonic velocity, or essentially the propagation of speed of sound through the medium. Provides a reliable, real-time measurement of the concentrations of the solutions and solvents. And since it's a physical value, it's highly traceable and well-known. A couple of the applications that we're able to cover in pharmaceutical, we're able to measure the content in nutrient solutions, emulsions, suspensions, monitor active ingredients, vitamins, proteins, etc., as well as detect phase interface levels in vessels and pipes, and control crystallization processes. let's see here. As you've seen from Stephen, he's done a great job of showing how our technology integrates into their bottom outlet valve. We also supply various other sensors to the industry, and they can be modified to include anything from ANSI to DN flanges, TriCam, Baravent, and other such process fittings. Essentially, what we like to say is we can come up with a sensor to fit into any application. You can go to the next slide, please. Oh, next slide there.
Yeah, I think you should be seeing that Sensitech monitors concentrations in pharma applications. Now, it may take a minute to get to you.
Yeah, it must be.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's actually saying that I have low bandwidth, which is
okay. Well, yeah. So you've
there
got.
we go.
Okay, good.
All right. Sorry about that.
No problem.
So we see where we're going. Essentially, the product that we provide is able to from larger scales, like such as the BOV valve, to smaller pharmaceutical manufacturing platforms. We've actually worked with MIT as well as Pfizer on some smaller stuff. Every system can be easily adapted as the process conditions are modified. This allows end users the ability to maximize their return on investment by change products using our software. Additionally, what good is a sensor if you can't communicate with it, if you can't receive data from it and log it in some form or some fashion? We're able to record data with standard 420 outputs, as well as Profibus, Modbus, various other communication protocols. We're able to set up alarms based on end users' specifications, which can be relayed to a PLC or even to other collection devices. I believe that that covers everything from me.
Yeah. Well, thank you, Matthew. That ties in very well with the Chef presentation, and look forward to talking to you more in the future. So we'll move on.
Certainly. Thank you, Bob.
Yeah. Thank you. Yeah. The Thermo Fisher we write about and talk about and include in a number of our webinars, particularly in the air pollution control field. But they obviously are one of the world's largest instrumentation manufacturers, and they have been moving into the automation solutions, and bought Finesse is a bioprocess management technology company here with smart technology, and we're not going to really get into the details of their smart factory and the use of a single use of sensors, but we have been talking a lot about their mass spectrometers in a number of different industries, and it's intriguing in something like cement, where somebody such as a thermal can be measuring the mercury in the flue gas, but they can also be measuring the mercury in the limestone that's used in the kiln to begin with. So you have a way to get precise tabulations of the percent removal of from the raw product to the end product. And the mass spec advantages are outlined there. And then Viva Fault unifies global data, content, and process across clinical operations in a single platform. Yokogawa has been making presentations on their tunable diode lasers and other instrumentation. They are also a major automation provider, so they go from the sensors up through a lot of their systems, like the DCS batch control system, and they're providing system solutions and analytical solutions. In a lot of the areas, I think Yokogawa defines their scope pretty much the way we're pursuing IIoT, which is not focused on, say, a metalworking machine and all the operations, but more with all the fluids that would be associated with that machine for cooling and other lubrication and other applications. That basically ends the presentation there. I want to take a couple more minutes to go into some ancillary points there. The first one we'll get to here, we'll just get out of that, is the fact that there are 550 companies who are buying 60% of all the automation and IIoT equipment. They're also buying $240 million, or 60% of all the flow and treat products. And they're indicated here in terms of the numbers with 70 power companies and 50 oil and gas companies and so forth. And the IIoT program actually takes into account the whole flow and treat market, and we have included a separate report now in the IIoT report, which has has the documentation of this very large $400 million flow and treat market. But so I think that this is a step forward to identify all the different companies, at least the 550 of these companies that will be buying 60% of the IIoT and remote O&M equipment. And then we are detailing that down to how much these companies are buying in all the different components. Here is a draft of the article that'll appear in this next month's Valve World, and it's on the chemical industry and the chemical market shares for Valve purchases and how much BASF is going to purchase and how much the other top chemical companies will purchase. And I'll just show you one more thing down here at the bottom, is that the top 10 companies, and the same thing is really true of IIoT in general, are having a 10% market share or purchasing share, let's say here, and then the next 10 4.5, and then the next 10, and so forth. So you get down to you need to get 200 companies in the chemical industry to get up to 40%, whereas in the power industry you're at 60% with just 15 companies. So there is certainly a difference there. And then just really two more points here. This is our industrial IIoT and remote O&M service. It's got all the market information and things. You can go to see the markets by components, by industries, and so forth. But we're doing a lot of other things as well. Here is the weekly news, monthly newsletters that we put out on IIoT, and so you can see here that this is going to open up for us. Yeah, so for instance, in the March newsletter, that lots of details on a lot of the optimization and automation suppliers. And here's the one that just came out today. And one thing I wanted to talk to you about is Valve Watch from MRC. Now, MRC bought this company that's been heavily involved in the oil and gas industry, and which I think is a leader on all this. But when you start looking at what they're doing, they're taking all this valve monitoring to a whole new level with strain sensors and multiple ways to measure actuator pressure, and the robust communications, which is high multiple of what other people are doing. And I won't. And then they have a monitoring center, and they're training 500 people a year and so forth. So there are a lot of things going on here, which I think maybe for the oil and gas industry, but a lot of other people are going to be able to learn from it for these other industries. Let's see, I wanted to get into the intelligence system here too. And then under the intelligence system, you can go into articles under various different ways. If you go in under title starting with the most recent, you get the titles going back here, and it's like we'll click on fleet-wide monitoring here, and this is a summary of it, and then you get into the full article. And again, gas turbine fleet-wide monitoring, I think, is going to lead the way. That and wind turbine monitoring to remote monitoring of operations, because there certainly is the need for it, and there are people doing it. And so there's a lot that's being learned about remote monitoring in that regard. And then the last thing I wanted to show you here is what we think is the ultimate in terms of taking the wisdom for IIoT and putting it all in one place. So what we've tried to do for a one vendor, one operator rather, that operates all these coal-fired plants, operates all these gas turbine plants, and we're tracking information on each one of them, and then wind facilities, renewables. They're also they also produce transmit 7% of all the gas in the United States, and we have a whole program for them with alerts and with all sorts of things going on. But more importantly, it's supported by a whole decision system that we have been creating over probably 40 years to all the decisions for all power plant, coal-fired power plant activities, and then the more recent one on gas turbine decisions. And we've got thousands of pages and hundreds of hours of webinars. Scott, who's on the phone with us here, has made a presentation in one of these BHE sessions where we did 9 hours just on NOx control solutions. But anyway, this is taking, if we do this for 550 IIoT purchasers in all these different industries, I think it is going to cause the whole new era of marketing that we really didn't have before all this was available. But anyway, it's a pretty ambitious program, but here is an example where it is being utilized, at least for one company. That's all I had here today. Is there anybody have any questions before I sign off, or comments? If not, thanks a lot for participating, and we'll look forward. Semiconductor is the next one coming up, and it's a few weeks from now, and there's a whole list of additional ones. And then, of course, the recordings of all the past ones are available free of charge. So thanks much, and this is Bob McElvain signing off for today.